I was playing Five Freddy 6 the other day, and I had a realization that the Mimic was underground the FNAF 6 location as we were in the FNAF 6 location. Once I realized this, I understood a lot of the FNAF 6 stuff from a different perspective. Let's first examine the timeline of the Mimic. The Mimic was created in 1979. He would be trapped under the FNAF 6 location for many years until the FNAF security breach ruined, where Cassidy would free him eventually. You might be asking, Golden, how do you know that he was buried under the FNAF 6 location? Well, the FNAF security breach was built over the FNAF 6 location, and in security breach ruin, we go actually under the Pizzaplex to FNAF 6. So it would be most likely that he would be buried under FNAF 6. Now that we have a rough layout of the Mimic's timeline, we can move on to some of the stuff in FNAF 6. Starting off with the most famous, Henry's speech. First I'm going to play it, but then afterwards I'm going to play it again by pointing out some of the stuff that I thought was interesting.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name, but I'm afraid you've been misinformed. You are not here to receive a gift, nor have you been called here by the individual you assume, although you have indeed been called. You have all been called here, into a labyrinth of sounds and smells, misdirection and misfortune. A labyrinth with no exit, a maze with no prize. You don't even realize that you are trapped. Your lust for blood has driven you in endless circles, chasing the cries of children in some unseen chamber, always seeming so near, yet somehow out of reach. But you will never find them. None of you will. This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. I am remaining as well. I am nearby. This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of every tragedy should. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still, and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole, so don't keep the devil waiting, old friend. My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms, the way you lifted others into yours. And then, what became of you? I should have known you wouldn't be content to disappear. Not my daughter. I couldn't save you then, so let me save you now. It's time to rest, for you, and for those you have carried in your arms. This ends, for all of us, in communication.
Now that we have fully listened to it, now I'm going to point out some of the stuff that I thought was really interesting. In the start of the speech, Henry mentions, and I quote, into a labyrinth of sounds and smells, misdirection and misfortune. The cries of children seeming so near, yet out of reach. None of the animatronics care for children, so it seems really strange why would he mention the cries of children. Maybe he's referencing the kid that Mimic was made for his cries. And a labyrinth of sounds and smells, misdirection and misfortune. Why would he say that about these animatronics? Why would they smell or hear or do any of these things? It sounds like he's talking to something that's kind of not used to that environment. Because at this point, the animatronics are completely used to this environment. They've been around for decades. Henry says, but for one of you, hell has opened up hole to swallow you whole. Don't let the devil waiting, old friend. Now, this probably does mean William Afton. What if when Henry was speaking about this, he thought he was talking about William Afton, but he misunderstood what he was trapping, and he was talking to the mimic instead. If we have a look at the scrap trap design and the spring trap design from FNAF 3, a lot of stuff is odd about it. And you know, Scott Coulthon is a very, very good game designer and a storyteller. So I feel like this little detail wouldn't have been much of a skill issue, more of intentional. Scrap Trap has a different hand, different body proportions, different feet, different helmet, different human body proportions, and even there's holes that aren't matched to the actual spring trap. Even in the books, from the Silver Eyes to the Fourth Closet, the design consistently looks the exact same, just more decayed. The years between Secret of the Mimic and sister locations are not that far apart, so my theory is that William Afton was working on the Mimic in the sister location, and in doing so, he was there while Michael Afton was there, and he mimicked the Ennard going into Michael Afton, and he used that exact thing to put himself into Scrap Trap. I know this is a fast stretch, but this would explain Yendo. For many, many years, we haven't known what Yendo is. This could be a perfect example. This could be William Afton trying to recreate the Mimic, but failing to do so. That's why we don't see him in any other game. Point your direction at Scrap Trap's hands and also the Mimic's hands. For the Mimic, it has a pointed end and it's curved all over. Looking at Scrap Trap's, it's the exact same. There is no other animatronic that has this design except the Mimic. Looking at the feet now, if we have a look at his left foot, it is bulky and it looks so similar to Scrap Trap's Now foot. Here's my biggest point of evidence for this. Look at the eyes between Scrap Trap and Mimic's. Scrap Trap has white eyes with a dim light in the middle. Mimic has white eyes with dim in the middle. It is more than likely that Henry misunderstood what Scrap Trap was, thinking it's William Afton, but instead it's the Mimic that crawled into the Scrap Trap body, mimicking Ennard, and in doing so, trapping it underneath the FNAF 6 location. And I think every film was spring-trapped after FNAF 6 is the Mimic. But now the real question is, what happened to Springtrap? Well, I think the FNAF 3 fire completely finished him off. Then the body of Springtrap, now Scrap Trap, is just a lifeless body that the Mimic crawled into. If we have a look at the Five Nights at Freddy's UCN roster, every single animatronic that is in the roster is an animatronic before or during FNAF 6. And the animatronics that are in FNAF 6 are only the ones that he had connections with making. After FNAF 3, he died and he went to UCN while getting tormented by Golden Freddy, and every animatronic that he made or had connections to making was there. And this makes so much more sense than him just being alive and alive and alive. And this would make much more sense why Mimic would be under the FNAF 6 location, because I don't think Steel or Scott has given us an explanation why he's trapped under there. But this theory does tell us what happened. He burned the FNAF 6 location down, and in doing so, he trapped the Mimic. And you might be asking, Golden, if he's the Mimic, how is it that we hear him saying, "I always come back"? In the chronological order, FNAF 3 is directly after FNAF 5. So, there's a chance that the Mimic followed you after FNAF 5 into the FNAF 3 location, and he was secretly there for the entire time, and in doing so, he heard him, William Afton, saying, "I always come back," and stuff like that, because he says this stuff in the game. The other option is that the phone dude from FNAF 3 found him and mistakenly thought he was a prop and just put him in the location. And that's the theory. I hope you enjoyed this. Leave a like, subscribe, put notifications on. Thank you for all the support. And yeah, see you guys later. God be with you all.